Welcome back to another episode of Out Loud Geek, where we discuss news and views about pop culture, science fiction, fantasy, food, cooking, the outdoors, and more. To no surprise, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever dominated this weekend's box office for its opener, because it also included Thursday night because of the Friday holiday. So, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever opened to $180 million domestically, which is really good, and it took in $330 million globally, which again is also very good. While these numbers are very good, they were not as good, however, as when Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness opened back in May. It had a massive opening weekend in the US and overseas for a combined total of $450 million for its opening weekend. Domestically, it took in $187 million, so Black Panther: Wakanda Forever did not do better than Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And it's essentially, from its opening weekend, $100 million behind where Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness was for its opening weekend globally. But it did, however, beat out Thor: Love and Thunder, which had a much weaker opening weekend, making only $143 million domestically, and a global total of $302 million. So it did beat out Thor: Love and Thunder quite well, but it did not beat out Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Marvel's Black Panther: Wakanda Forever dominated the box office, earning $180 million over the weekend and providing a much-needed lift to beleaguered cinemas. The sequel demolished the record for a November opening, soaring past the previous high-water mark of $158 million set by 2013's Hunger Games: Catching Fire. Globally, the superhero adventure netted a very good $330 million, with $150 million of that figure coming from 55 overseas markets. Its success has a bittersweet undercurrent. That's because the filmmakers behind the sequel faced the shocking off-screen tragedy before production even commenced when Chadwick Boseman, the actor who had given 2018's Black Panther so much of its soul, died in 2020 of cancer. He was only 43 years old at the time. In response, Ryan Coogler, the film's director and co-writer, refashioned Black Panther: Wakanda Forever into a tribute for the late actor. In the movie, the Kingdom of Wakanda is grappling with the death of King T'Challa as an art-imitating life situation that gave the film greater emotional resonance. Now, I will say that just because Chadwick Boseman tragically died back in 2020, that did not mean that they could not recast the character. This has been done numerous times. A prime example was when the actor who played Albus Dumbledore, Richard Harris, passed away in 2002. He was replaced by the actor Michael Gambon, who played the character for the duration of the remaining films. So, in my own opinion, the character of King T'Challa, aka the Black Panther, could have been recast with another actor. Because, yes, unfortunately, Chadwick Boseman is no longer alive, but that did not mean that the character itself, which is not the same as the actor, had to be killed off. Instead, Kevin Feige and Disney decided to use Chadwick Boseman's tragic death as a way to market Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Back in September, Kevin Feige revealed why he chose not to recast Chadwick Boseman with another actor to play King T'Challa. And personally, I think it's just kind of an excuse, and I just don't agree with this choice. Following Chadwick Boseman's shocking death in 2020, Marvel Studios was tasked with the decision to whether to recast his King T'Challa role in Ryan Coogler's upcoming Black Panther sequel, Wakanda Forever, a role Boseman also had previously played in Captain America: Civil War and the Avengers films. In an interview with Empire magazine, Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige talked about the decision to not recast the role, and instead find a way to honor Boseman along with a different approach to the sequel. It just felt like it was too much too soon to recast, he told the magazine. And yet, when the producers of the Harry Potter films were faced with the same dilemma with the passing of Richard Harris in 2002, only 2 years had elapsed from the time that Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets had been released in 2002 and the release of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban in 2004, which had Michael Gambon playing Albus Dumbledore instead of the deceased Richard Harris. Yet it's been 4 years since Chadwick Boseman last played King T'Challa in 2018's Black Panther, and it's been 2 years since he passed away. So I think that there's been enough time for people to grieve over his loss. And I don't think that Stan Lee would have wanted the character to have been killed off simply because Chadwick Boseman had passed away. Let's not forget that 3 different actors have played Spider-Man since the year 2000. And I'll talk briefly about Black Adam, which came in at second place over this weekend. Domestically, the film grossed $8.6 million, giving it a domestic cum of $151 million. To date, Black Adam has grossed $352 million worldwide, which on the surface doesn't sound bad, but it still needs to earn close to $488 million to break even. And given that it's starting to flatten out over time and it now has to compete with Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, I think it is very doubtful that this film is actually going to break even. It's probably going to end up flopping, I'm sad to say. Because Black Panther Wakanda Forever had a $250 million budget, based on my earlier video where I talked about how I estimate the break-even point for films, I multiplied the production budget by 2.5 to cover both the amount of money that the theaters generally keep for themselves, plus additional costs that the studio has to cover. So using that factor of 2.5, it's going to be closer to a $625 million break-even point. Right now, I am not worried that it will be able to achieve that. I think it probably will, but it's questionable as to how much money the film will actually make. And even though Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness had such a stellar opening weekend back in May, it did not cross the $1 billion mark. It ended up earning a gross total of around $952 million. So it did not break $1 billion. Right now, I do not believe that Black Panther Wakanda Forever will necessarily break the $1 billion mark. It might, but right now, I don't think that it will. But it did have a very stellar opening weekend. Not as good as Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but still a very good opening weekend no matter what. Thanks for watching today. And a huge thanks to everyone who has subscribed to our channel. We appreciate your support. If you enjoyed this video, please press the like button. And please feel free to share a comment. If you'd like to see more of our videos in the future and help support this channel, please press the red subscribe button, and please press the bell to receive notifications for new content. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter by clicking on the links in the description. Until next time, this is Out Loud Geek.